board. Can we unmute Karen?
I was just raising my hand a second.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. Okay, so seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or in the chat.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. The minutes are approved. Thank you so much, everybody.
I don't think we have any other Jupiter questions. Oh, someone did ask, how close is this to the image of Galileo we've seen? I think that's a pretty good question.
Okay, so we're going to go into the chair's report, but I do understand there are some hands up. We have 21 days until election day, so we're going to not play this game today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on the 4 hands that are raised, and I'm going to ask for what purpose do you seek recognition, starting with Stacy Golden.
I apologize. I was just affirming the minutes. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you so much, Stacy. Chris Robeson, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
A point of information or recommendation that we use the green yes or the no, red no's for votes rather than unmuting. It's cacophonous, and I think it'll be much smoother for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christopher. Who's the second person? Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have 21 days until we take back our democracy. 21 days till we restore dignity back into the White House. And I think we can all agree, well, at this point, it's about 20 days. But happy 245th birthday to the U.S. Navy and any member who is in active duty on tonight. This is our last meeting before the election. We're 20 days away. And as of today, 216,000 ballots have been returned, of which 135,000 are Democrats. So our issues that matter are holding elected officials accountable, but also supporting Democrats all across our county. Despite the attempts at the distraction, as of this month, we are officially hit more than 3 million Democrats in LA County. All right. Through this pandemic, we've had to be more creative with how we get voters fired up. And so we've just completed a marathon of 6 virtual rallies across the county, highlighting endorsed candidates up and down the ballot. I want to thank all of the candidates who were able to participate, show up, bring supporters, and those who were able to speak. I also want to thank the CADEM fellows who worked with staff and our interns to put on these virtual rallies, getting people fired up and ready to vote. Our endorsed candidates really appreciate it. And of course, LA County Democratic Party leading the way and having hundreds of candidates and good Democrats that we're supporting. I want to continue to thank my colleagues and AD and regional leadership for working with the staff to identify the priority races in their areas and being strong advocates for their assembly districts. I appreciate the continued support and continued focus from our leadership. While others attempt to distract us from the work we are committed to doing over the next 4 years on the issues that matter to us. As you have seen, Republicans are doing everything they can to thwart democracy with their attempts to use systematic voter suppression tactics. Falling in the courts, they reverted to the president's tactics to distract and confuse. In Palmdale, Lancaster, Orange County, and other parts of our state, Republicans have started to put fake drop boxes throughout the county, and everyone should be concerned. Those are the things we're against now and will be focused on through our next 4 years together in this body. This week, we'll be launching our Voter Protection Team Los Angeles, recruiting volunteers to be poll workers across the county in targeted areas. This will be a partnership with the California Democratic Party and their voter protection team. I want to thank election protection co-chairs Connie Sullivan and Diana Love for helping spearhead this with the staff as we make sure we protect all 5 million eligible voters, actually 6 million eligible voters, now 3 million of which are Democrats. Those are the things that we're up against now and we'll be focused on the next 4 years together in this body. With that in mind, I think many of you guys, all of the Assembly District Delegation chairs helped us pick the 2020 Franklin Delano Roosevelt Democrat of the Year. They are taking place Sunday, November 15th at 7 p.m., all virtually, of course. Information can be found at lacdp.org/Roosevelt 2020 for tickets. Congratulations to all the honorees from each Assembly District to be announced soon, but special congratulations to our Pat Eastman Volunteer of the Year Award recipients, Henry Lowe from Assembly District 49 and Jane Wishon. And Jane Wishon, I can't remember what Assembly District you're from, but congratulations, Jane Wishon and Henry Lowe, for the top honor, and thank you so much for all you do. And I just want to repeat, the website is lacdp.org/Roosevelt 2020 for tickets. So there's that. Oh, that's for hold on one. Yes, I apologize. Thank you, Jacinta, for the recognizing today is the anniversary of the Matthew Shepard passing. So thank you so much for that. I apologize, folks. I have a lot of notes in front of me. Okay, so tonight we welcome two friends to briefly address you all. Long Beach City Council Member Rex Richardson, who has been a great partner in Long Beach, not only for us, but for our candidates and our candidates for LAUSD District 3, Scott Schmilson. We welcome them tonight as we continue to do over the next 4 years with a myriad of colleagues, and I hope we will respect their time. I'm going to repeat this again later, but I want to make sure I address this now. On tonight's agenda, we have the reconsideration of Santa Fe Springs Council. Last month, we endorsed Jose Angel Zamora. Since that endorsement, staff was flagged and provided information thanks to 8057 Chair Jaime Lopez about Mr. Zamora's censure by the Santa Fe City Springs Council and the accusations of harassment against a frontline worker in that city. We have since had multiple conversations, and in an effort not to distract us from the work or efforts to aid candidates in winning in 20 days by outside actors, Mr. Zamora has agreed to have the body rescind his endorsement pending a vote of approval from the body. I ask that we swiftly handle that, and staff will remove Mr. Zamora from our website, our digital voter guide, and won't be promoting him as a candidate going forward. I appreciate the work of Mr. Lopez, staff, and those involved for making sure that we are kept abreast of things happening throughout the county. And again, I'll repeat this when we get to that part of the agenda. Just a couple of weeks ago, Turkey and Azerbaijan launched an attack on Artsakh and Armenia. I apologize if I'm butchering that. I know I'll get corrected later. Tonight, we will take that up as an emergency resolution authored by Ellen Estrahan from Assembly District 43 and supported by Congressmember Adam Schiff, Senator Portantino, myself, and so many others. As someone who has signed on their name to this resolution, I urge you all to support this as we continue to support our Armenian Angelinos and their families around the world. If you have not seen the resolution in yesterday's notice, staff will be providing that in the chat shortly. Dina and Joanne and the Legislative Action Committee met for the first time last week. There are a handful of legislative action positions up for consideration tonight, which were provided in your email notice from staff yesterday and will be provided in that for you shortly as well. Again, before us tonight is a couple of updates to our bylaws. I want to thank our rules and legal co-chairs, Lauren Saxon and Jimmy Woods Gray, for their work, and to the committee members for providing their voices, input, and support for these necessary changes. A couple of the updates pre-debate this committee, particularly the updates regarding our anti-harassment committee, as they were scheduled to be passed back in April. Unfortunately, though, due to this pandemic, it pushed back the rules committee's plans, but I'm encouraged by the work of the committee in getting these crucial pieces back to the floor tonight. The first item up tonight will focus on codifying virtual meetings, as this pandemic has no doubt upended the way we do business. These necessary rules changes will allow us to conduct business when necessary virtually. Previously, those rules were not part of our bylaws, and I want to thank my colleagues on the previous policy committee, Lawrence and Jimmy, for coming up with an emergency bylaws to allow us to continue to conduct actual business monthly. Tonight, we will just solidly those so that when we get back in person, if we ever need to call an emergency virtual meeting, we can. These changes do not address the operational aspects of running a meeting. As always, we defer to staff and the policy committee for providing guidelines for those. Tonight, I urge you to support the updates to our bylaws that we've worked very hard on. Finally, short after I became chair in 2017, we introduced an anti-harassment and workplace violence policy aimed at protecting members. We were the first in the state to do so after the state party. With that came a new task force whose role is to examine complaints and present them to the policy committee final adjudication. Tonight, with these rules updates, we will make this committee a permanent standing committee, expanding its role to not only address harassment, but conduct. We're going to hear arguments that these expanded rules are designed to stifle dissent and limit free speech. These rules do not do that. Let me repeat. We're going to hear arguments that these expanded rules are designed to stifle dissent and limit free speech. These rules simply do not do that. Every member is entitled to speak freely on the issues that matter and the ways that we hold our elected leaders accountable. What these rules do, however, is address targeted harassment from those who use free speech as a shield. Let's be clear, our Central Committee is an organization designed to uphold the ideals and principles of the Democratic Party. It is not a place where we attack one another, the staff, or any other Democrat for any reason, especially harassing and personal attacks. These rules and this new committee, are designed to protect those members who feel that they have been targeted as a protected class or for their views. It's one thing to disagree and passionately fight for what we believe in. It's another thing to use that as a reason to harass another member or another Democrat. This new committee will look at these complaints come through the proper process that the Rules Committee will provide the guidelines for, and the Policy Committee will ultimately make a decision or provide a recommendation to the body for further review. And of course, on this item, I urge you all to support tonight's updates to this section as well. I hope you all have taken the time to vote or have received your ballot. Continue to encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to get out the vote. Lives depend on the outcome of this election. I don't have to tell you what that means. Give me 1 second. All right, so I got through that piece. Staff is correcting me that we didn't get a motion for adoption of the agenda as presented. So let's go back on that. Is there a motion for adoption of the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Hannah, seconded by Carolyn Fowler. For any discussion, please raise your hands. All right, we are in discussion, folks. Keep in mind, folks, we are on the adoption of the agenda as presented. For what purpose do you rise to seek recognition in this discussion, Mr. Padilla?
Yes, Chair Gonzalez, thank you for finally recognizing my hand. My question regarding the adoption of the agenda is a point of information. It's why for the last 2 months now has there been no treasurer's report on the agenda? Many of us have many questions about the finances of LACDP.
So you're very familiar with the bylaws yourself. In the bylaws, it states that the controller and the treasurer's report is every quarter in a calendar year. So Jacob will be presenting that at the appropriate time. Great, thank you so much. Any further discussion? Please raise your hand as Mr. Robeson suggested. Okay, and also taking that, Ms. Greenwood, for what purpose do you rise on the recognition for discussion of the agenda?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Joan.
I thought you were asking us to vote.
No worries. Okay, great. Can we clear her in? Okay, Linda Bassett. For what purpose do you seek recognition?
I don't quite understand your answer to Paul. We always had treasury reports before, not every quarter.
The bylaws in this new term state that it's every quarter.
The bylaws in this new term, have the bylaws been changed?
We're in a new term. Let me clear the air on that. We're in a new term.
Yeah, did the bylaws change?
Bylaws state that it's every quarter.
So did the bylaws change, I'm asking?
They've always been like that. We're just enforcing it now. You're more than welcome to read the bylaws, Linda. They're there. Great, moving forward. Let's go ahead and use the green functions for yes and no as suggested. I appreciate that, Christopher. For all those in favor of adoption of the agenda as presented, please click the green button yes. All those in opposition to accepting the adoption of the agenda as presented, please click no. You will have 1 minute to vote. With 132 yeses and 6 in opposition, the motion for adoption as presented is approved. Thank you so much, and I apologize for skipping that. Thank you, staff, as always, for catching that. I gave my chair's remarks. Let's go ahead and go to our vice chair's remarks. Get on my notes here. Okay, we're good. Pat Sanders, our vice chair. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, yeah, now. Good evening, Democrats. This is Pat Sanders. I hope all of you have been extremely busy, as I have been, getting together, voting your ballots, because you can vote them now. If you don't want to go through the mail, which I don't want to either, you can go down to the register recorder's office and put it in their box in front of their building, which is cemented down. You can do that and it's done. You also can track your ballot. I'm really concerned, and I hope that you are too, with this virus. We don't want to be exposed. We want to get our votes in early and have it done. Okay, so if there's any kind of questions or any kind of more things or more knowledge you need, this election is important. I can't say that enough. With everything, even with them making up ballot boxes to put it in, we have to protect ourselves and protect our families. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say right now, because we only got 20 days left. And we don't need to wait till the last day to go ahead and vote. Also, I urge you all to support tonight's bylaws. Change, as you know, it has to be done. We need everybody to support that, and we need to move on. We've got work to do. It's still not going to be over with the election. We've got to go forward. Reform. Come on. With everything. This man has taught this country to hell and back. So we've got to get together and unite and fix it again. That's all I'm going to say. But thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Pat Sanders, for all of your work and all that you're doing at the LA County Registrar of Recorder. Hold on, let me. Last week, we participated in a press conference urging folks to vote early, and we were urging them to let them know that their ballots were going to drop. So I appreciate you, Pat, and your leadership in that. I'd like to go to the Vice Chair, Sergio Carrillo's report, and then I'll go ahead and take some questions. So let's go ahead and start with Sergio Carrillo, our Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mark, and good afternoon, good evening, Democrats. Let me first of all start off by thanking the volunteers who are here at the Democratic Party headquarters tonight working on credentialing. Again, thank you all for being here. It's a lot of interns and volunteers who are here. Thank you. I also want to take this opportunity to thank staff and the interns for putting on 6 amazing rallies. You know, we were trying to figure out a way how to encourage people to get excited about our Democratic Party endorsed candidates, especially and most especially the locally endorsed candidates. And so we had 6 rallies that we worked with CDP to put together. I want to thank the staff and the interns of the office that made that possible. I also want to thank staff for the press conferences that we had over the last couple of weeks. They have been responding quickly to these issues that are occurring, from the boxes that are showing up that the Republican Party is putting up. It's funny, they're the ones who said the Democrats are ballot harvesting, but yet they're the ones who are actually putting out there in their training material on how to harvest ballots. Kind of hypocritical if you ask me, but that's the Republican Party. So I want to thank staff for doing that. I too will support the resolution being proposed today in defense of Armenia. And lastly, I'll just say this. We have 20 days after today, I guess, 21 days, 20 days after today, for what is the most important election of our lifetimes. Literally, as the Vice President says, we are in a fight for the heart and soul of our country against a man who lacks both heart and soul. But what's more importantly is that we not just do our best to elect our Democratic president, but that we do all that we can to elect our Democratic Party endorsed candidates at the local level. You know, all politics is local. We sometimes forget that. We always focus on the big races, but most importantly, these local races are the ones that impact us every single day. Our trash pickup, our library hours, our police and fire, our parks, our streets, the way our streets look, homelessness. It's all local issues. And so let us not forget to put the word out there on our emails, to advocate for those people who are endorsed by the Democratic Party. These are people who sat in interviews, who responded to questionnaires, and who shared their platform and their views. And we believe that they're the ones who most personify our values and principles. So thank you again to all of them, and let's encourage them to do that. And lastly, I just want to thank all the committees that have been working throughout this effort, whether it's the Resolutions Committee or whether it's the Legislative Action Committee, whether it's the Labor Committee or any other committee, but most especially the Rules Committee. I know that today we're going to have some rules that are being proposed and some people are just not happy, but know that your Rules Committee sat through this process, listened to hearings, listened to tons of testimony from all sides to come up with this proposal. And so I just want to thank them before you execute them or crucify them for the work that they're doing on behalf of all of us. And lastly, I'll just say this, I'm telling you one way or the other, but the Committee on Harassment is a committee that has been in existence as an ad hoc committee. All we're doing here today is codifying it as a permanent committee because we believe it's so important to address harassment issues, to address these other issues. And if you believe it's that important, then I hope you would support making it a standing committee and not just leave it as an ad hoc committee. So I'm not telling you how to vote. I think you figure out where I'm at, because I do believe this issue is very important. And we need to do everything in our power to make sure people feel safe, especially the Democratic Party, to feel safe here, to feel safe in our Democratic clubs, and to feel safe to be able to advocate and express whatever they want. Remember, we are the party of the big tent. And all we're doing here is giving people a safe place to be able to express their views. And I hope you
It's 7:45.
And on that note, I'll turn it back to our esteemed chair.
Thank you so much, Sergio, our awesome colleague and vice chair for LACDP. I do see a couple of hands up. Paul Cole Padilla, for what purpose do you seek recognition, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I had some questions and points of information. They relate to, one of the things it relates to is the fact that I finally see NV next to your name for non-voting. I assume that means that Mr. Zaxon has corrected himself and you, that you don't have the right to a public vote?
No, Mr. Padilla, you're certainly wrong, and I'm not going to recognize you for that. But to answer the question, my alternate is here tonight, and she's going to vote.
Okay, well, I'm not wrong. And one of the things is that you also, as chair, presiding officer of a General Assembly meeting, you don't have the right, as you exercised during your president's report, to take positions on voting items and to advocate for.
Chair's report, Paul. I can certainly do that.
I'm sorry, what?
It's the chair's report. I can certainly do that.
Well, it's a voting item. You're not supposed to do that.
I can speak about that. What else? What is the purpose of your recognition, sir?
So the other things relating to again, continuing abuse of the chair's position by yourself. The last meeting, you ruled me for the third time, you claimed, out of order. And under this,
I'm going to go ahead and choose not to recognize you, and you're going ahead and be ruled out of order. Great, thank you so much. Moving on to Kathy Patterson.
Yes.
Oh, Kathy, you're on mute. Accept your mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have a question on the drop boxes. So I dropped my ballot off at an official drop box on Thursday, and I'm doing the ballot tracks, but I haven't got any feedback. So I'm wondering if we know how often they do check the drop boxes and if we know that.
It's out of order, Kathy, but for the sake of answering the question, like I did answer the previous question for the first person, to my understanding, it is every day.
It's every day?
No.
Okay, well, people are asking me too. I want to encourage people to use them. And so I'd like to be able to tell people, you know, how often. And does the registrar check that, or does that go to the mail or to the post office? Do we know that?
I'll touch base with you on the side, but I have to rule you out of order on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I think there's some folks who might be answering that question in the chat. I'm sorry, Kathy. Did we do Kathy? Thank you, Kathy. Linda. Karen Wingard, for what purpose do you seek recognition? Accept the unmute, Karen.
I wasn't really seeking recognition. I was trying to find the chat. I was going to tell Kath it took just under a week to find out that my ballot had been
No worries. I'm going to take the last two hands. Amy Fall, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Well, I guess my original one was about, I think her name is Jessica. She spoke about the ballot boxes. I have people asking me, and I'm actually confused, not just about dropping them off, but question about when they actually get counted. So do they get counted on the day of, or do they count beforehand? Because some people are worried they're not going to get counted if they do a mail-in ballot.
Okay, so Amy, just to stay consistent on the rules, since they're probably being recorded, I have to rule you out of order on this but I will answer the question that when they collect the ballots, they're not counted until 8 p.m. on the day of, to my understanding, unless somebody else wants to correct me on that, but they're not counted until 8 p.m. They're prepped, they're ready to go, they're staged at the their respective county registrar recorder. And then for such places like in Pomona or in Antelope Valley, they get helicoptered in right after the last person votes into the county registrar report. Thank you. Diana Love or Connie Sullivan, if you could put your information in the chat. I just want to make sure that we answer folks' question. If you guys could put your emails in there. I know that some state ballots are collected every 72 hours. Some have been told they're collected every day. I know Carolyn has some input in there. So if you guys could put your emails in the chat. Trust me, I'd like to take, these are very good questions, but because of procedures, and I want to stick uniform to that, I do have to rule certain folks out of order. Penny Kunatani.
Sorry, yes, I was just also trying to answer the questions. And you're correct, every 72 hours, according to the LA County Registrar, and then every day when we get close to election day, and correct, they don't get counted until starting at 8 p.m. on election day, but they are opened, the pages are counted, and the signatures are checked on the envelope in advance.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I do have to, unfortunately, rule you out of order on that for consistency. Linda Bassett, for what purpose do you seek recognition? Linda Bassett, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. I was, because Pat had raised the subject of voting and the ballot boxes, I too had a question for her regarding the security of the boxes. Okay, so that's it, because I think when people put their ballots in them, that we should know what is the chain of command, or the chain of or who picks it up, where does it go, etc. You know?
Absolutely, Linda. I agree with you, and I wish we could ask those questions, but I also have to rule you out of order simply to stay consistent. Pat, if you want to answer any questions in the chat, maybe that might help to DM Linda. Great. Moving forward with our guest speakers. Awesome. Rex Richardson was elected to the Long Beach City Council in 2014 to represent the neighborhoods of North Long Beach in Council District 9. He serves as the chair of the Economic Development Committee and the Long Beach Housing Authority. I've known him for a really long time. He's a good brother and a good friend. Rex Richardson, where are you, my friend? There you are.
All right. Well, thank you. Certainly, thank you, my friend, Chair Mark Gonzalez, and to the entire leadership team, Sergio, Patty, Drexel. We certainly know you and acknowledge you from Long Beach, and also want to acknowledge all the delegates, and especially AB 63, 64, and 70, our Long Beach delegation. I want to bring you some thanks and some greetings from the city of Long Beach. I want to thank you first for the call to action to our neighbors in the Southeast who are dealing with the abandonment of the Exide facility. That's important. They are our neighbors, and we stand in solidarity with the Southeast. My name is Rex Richardson, and I know many of you. I'm a former member of this body. I know many of you from my work in the labor movement when I started my career as a community organizer. Some of you I met during the Obama days when I was a delegate then, or some of you I know from 2020 as I was a Bernie delegate in 2020. Long Beach is a great city, but we are at an inflection point. This is our very first aligned election in the history of our city. That means more people are coming out to vote in our local municipal elections, driven by the turnout makers at the top of the ticket. And so we are proud of the progressive candidates who stepped up. They have taken on incumbents, progressive candidates taking on incumbents like Tanua Thrash Intook, who is endorsed by this body, Suli Sorrow, who's taking on incumbent, who's endorsed by this body, both endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders. We also are proud that cities, we're facing a crisis on multiple fronts, from a racial equity emergency, a climate emergency, and a public health pandemic, really calling all of our cities to reevaluate what resiliency means. And I'm proud that Long Beach has stepped up, and I want to thank you for supporting Measure US in Long Beach. This is a comprehensive strategy where Long Beach is stepping up, increasing our tax on oil, and investing that tax into youth, health equity, and climate equity, all of it with a racial equity lens. This measure came directly out of the unrest that took place in our city after the tragic incident with Mr. George Floyd. We went out, listened to the community, engaged in a process called the Racial Equity and Reconciliation Initiative, 107 recommendations to create a more equitable, inclusive city. And that cannot happen without the resources to make it happen. So we are making oil companies pay their fair share and investing that into health, climate, and equity. So I want to take this opportunity to thank LACDP for its support in helping Long Beach to help lead the region and help shape policy as it relates to equity across our state. Thank you so much, and go Democrats.
Thank you so much, Rex. We really appreciate your leadership in Long Beach, and thank you for all you've done for the Democratic Party, my friend. Moving on to our next guest speaker. Scott Schmilson. Scott is currently on the board of LA Unified School District, having been elected in 2015, and is our endorsed candidate for re-election to represent District 3. He has been an educator for over 35 years, having served in a myriad of positions from teacher to administrator. He's got a strong record. Scott Schmilson, I am a product of LA Unified School District, my friend, and thank you so much for your leadership. Scott, are you there?
Here, I am here. Thank you so much. In fact, I was early today. Thank you so much, Mark. I just want to let everybody know that I'm here to urge everyone to vote yes for Measure RR. So Measure RR is a $7 billion school upgrades and safety bond measure on this November's ballot. If approved by 55% of the votes cast, Measure RR will upgrade, modernize, and replace aging and deteriorating school facilities. It'll improve accessibility and safety. It will update technology, and it will address the inequities in the Los Angeles Public Schools, student schools. So Measure RR is projected to extend the repayment for all LA Unified bonds for 4 years and is structured not to increase the tax rate that will be in place at the time of the election. Additionally, as older bonds are paid off, the overall tax rate will decrease. So Measure RR will cost just 2.174 cents per $100, or to be real, $21.74 per $100,000 of assessed, not market property, and it will be generating about $329,528 annually until approximately 2055. Whatever we can do for our kids, we need to do. Technology, we're in the 21st century, and we are really moving forward. Please, everyone, please support Measure RR. It's for the kids, so please do that. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Scott. We really appreciate you and your leadership, brother. We look forward to re-electing you on November 3rd. Thank you. Okay, moving on to standing committees. Labor, Cecile Ben David or Mark? Oh, Mark Ramos, you have your hand up for this. My apologies, sir. Can we spotlight Mark Ramos?
There we go. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, good evening, everybody. Mr. Chair, I move that all matters before us on committee.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. No, sir. No worries, no worries. I move that on all matters before us today on committee reports, unless the bylaws otherwise expressly provide, as they always do for some endorsements, we limit the debate to 3 speakers per side, 1 minute each, unless the body votes to extend the debate. For each report, we vote first on the committee's recommendation as reported, subjected to any typographical or other technical non-substantive amendments, and if the report is rejected, the motion of the committee to adopt the report will be considered as initially presented and subject to consideration for such amendments as they may be otherwise have been allowed by Robert's Rules of Order's newly revised edition. And I have this written down. I'll send a picture of it to Drexel if you need it for some kind of clarification as folks begin to talk.
For the minutes, but there's a motion made by Mark Ramos. It's seconded by Ronald Gonzalez Lawrence. Let's go ahead and go into discussion. You could raise your hand for discussion. Okay, I think it's the same one. Huh? Oh, there it is. All right. Okay, Linda Bassett, we are in discussion on the motion. For what purpose do you seek recognition?
I don't agree with the motion. I would encourage everyone to vote no. I think on some of these we're going to need a lot more time to discuss than just 3 people up and 3 people down. We're a deliberative body, lots of smart people here, lots of opinions. I know that we're crunched for time, but these are very important issues. So I encourage everyone to vote no.
Great, thank you, Linda, so much. Let's go ahead and move on to Rick Tuttle in Assembly District 54.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me begin by thanking you for your leadership and your leadership team, Mr. Hurd, the Senate, the entire team throughout. Addressing this matter, at least on the, let's call it the bylaws change coming out of our very distinguished Rules Committee, that's going to require some deliberation, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman. So I urge that at least on that one, that appropriate time be set aside. I'd say, Mr. Chairman, 2 minutes per person and several speakers, maybe 5 or 6. I'm making this up on the fly. 1 minute's a little tight. 3 minutes is better. I'd settle for 2. And I urge the chair, this is a pretty important matter, and I yield my time back, and thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle, former controller. We appreciate your leadership as well, sir. Justine Gonzalez in Assembly District 51.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say that I believe this motion does include the ability to extend, included language that extended if the body so chose on specific matters. So I would say vote yes on this to give a general rule of 1 minute per speaker, 3 speakers each. And we can, as I understand it, if there's a particular item that needs more time, then the body can vote to make more time for that, as opposed to just not setting any ground rules at all.
Thank you, Justine. Moving on to Derek Devermont, a USDNC member, sir. For what purpose do you guys seek recognition? I'm sorry.
I'm on an airplane, but I'm rising to support the motion. I don't think we need more than a minute for somebody to state their point of view effectively. A minute is fine. We have a lot of work to go through, and given the constant, unduly needed interruptions, I think this is a good move. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Derek. You have better service than some of us on the ground. Thank you. Stephen Alari, for what purpose do you seek recognition and discussion, sir? Oh, Stephen, unmute. Stephen, you're unmuted. Stephen, I think you're talking, but we can't hear you. Thank you. Are you there? Stephen, let me test it again while he's saying something in the chat. Stephen's calling the question.
It is not private. It is to everyone.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, hold on. Just double checking our parliamentarian procedural questions. Stand by. All right, just double checking. We dot our I's and cross our T's here. There was a motion to end debate on the issue. It was seconded.
This is unbelievable.
Seconded by Jaime Lopez. Does not need to go into discussion. All those in favor of the motion to terminate debate, please click yes.
Wait until this gets
All those in opposition to terminating debate, please click no.
Unbelievable. Right before E, I'm spelling it wrong.
Two-thirds required for this motion to pass with 113 to 27. Motion to end debate passes. So now, Mark, and for the sake of the folks on the phone, could you go ahead, Mark Ramos that is, could you go ahead and restate the motion?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'll begin from the beginning. I move that on all matters before us today on committee reports, unless the bylaws otherwise expressly provide, as they do for some endorsements, we limit the debate to 3 speakers per side, 1 minute each, unless the body votes to extend debate. For each report, we vote first on the committee's recommendation as reported, subject to any typographical or other technical substantive amendments. And if the report is rejected, the motion of the committee to adopt the report will be considered as initially presented and subject to consideration for such amendments as may be otherwise have been allowed by Robert's Rules of Orders, newly revised. And I also sent a picture to Drexel so you have it for the records.
Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go to the vote. As we said, we terminated debate. This was already up for discussion. Thank you, Mr. Ramos, for restating that. So all those in favor of accept. we're gonna go ahead and clear the deck so that we can make sure we calculate the votes appropriately and accurately. Clearing the votes. We're in the middle of a vote, folks. Clear the deck. Please do not vote. So those same three of you that keep voting, we're not going to count it. We're clearing the deck, as I said. Clearing the deck. Great. Those of you who have NV by your name as in not voting, please, you are not a voting member in this subject. Go ahead and all those in favor of the motion that was presented by Mr. Ramos, seconded by Ronald Gonzalez Lawrence, please click the yes green button. All those in opposition, please click the no button. All right. Thank you so much. With 120 yeses and 34 noes, this motion passes. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramos. While we are on, what is this? Okay, so Amy Fall, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
I have a point of information for the policy committee.
We are not in policy committee. We're in the general body membership meeting.
Okay, when do I ask that question before we vote
At the policy
on the
committee.
well, are we voting on this amendment right now? This bylaws amendment?
No, we haven't even gotten there.
So we're not doing that right now?
Clearly, no, we have not.
Why? Okay. Is that what we were just talking about, limiting debate to?
So let me be clear. We're on item number 10, which is the standing committee reports. What the motion that was made was to allow it to have the debate on the 3 in support and 3 in opposition for the items A through E as in Esther.
The bylaws.
No, on the standing committee reports.
Okay.
Was presenting was for items A, B, C, D, and E to allow it for those debates.
I'm sorry, I don't have that. I'm confused where we are.
She was still saying. Okay, well, I guess that answers that. All right. Okay, so point of personal privilege, point of personal clarification here. And to answer Amy Fall's question. So these rules did not come out of the policy committee, to be clear. These rules came out of the rules committee. And so when you want to address or provide testimony for that, you can send it to the rules committee.
But it has to do.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Fall?
It does.
Wait,
It doesn't.
unmute her.
It's about the oh. I'm sorry. It's about talking about these rules and where they came from. So I need, before we talk, as part of the debate about where these came from, as part of information, so the body knows where these actually came from.
It came from the rules committee. That's why it's called the Rules and Legal Committee.
Who wrote them?
I'm sorry?
Who wrote them?
The Rules Committee.
Who typed them? Who actually came out of their brain? Actually wrote these rules.
I gotta rule you out of order on that one. You're asking things that are just
no, because this came from the state board. This came from the state Democratic Party.
Okay, I mean, I'm ruling you out of order.
Except for one word.
What kind of a pen did they use? I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, great. Rebecca Wolfensberg, excuse me, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last meeting, Lawrence Jackson reported that we would have time for debate.
That's what we're going to be doing when we get to that committee report.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Margie Hoyt, for what purpose do you seek recognition? Can we spotlight Margie Hoyt? Margie Hoyt?
Okay, yes. I move that the speakers for and against be allowed to alternate rather than having all for and then all against. Do you understand?
I do understand. I'm just trying to understand why.
Alternate as opposed to all at once on one side and all at once on the other side?
Look, I'll go. I don't think we need a motion for that. I mean, we've done that at normal meetings. If you want us to crisscross back and forth, I'm fine with that.
Yes, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving forward to Betty Tomas Toto.
Hi, point of information, I'm a little concerned. I think there's been a lot of confusion on these votes. I am looking at the chat and I'm also looking at the participants. And when we're supposed to be voting, people have their hands raised and then you're actually calling the vote. Those hands raised are not indicative of a vote, I don't believe. They're indicative of people that are asking questions.
So when I ask clear the deck and then people start raising their hand and then I ask to clear the deck and the same three people raise their hands and I say clear the deck and then I start the voting when the voting begins.
Yes, and at the same time, when that was happening, I saw people fervently, they were just trying to put their vote into the chat at the same time. I don't know if there has been an issue with the last vote because it seemed like people were voting saying, oh, no, 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 or something like that. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this vote was actually accurate. And I believe what we're voting on is actually how long we have to debate.
Mr. Robeson, for what purpose do you seek recognition, sir?
Yeah, mine was a point of order.
Yes, sir. For what purpose do you seek recognition?
Point of order is that we use hands to raise points of order, not vote. I had raised my hand before or during Mr. Ramos's motion. I had an amendment to make for that motion. In addition, there were at least 5 or 6 hands still up, indicating the need for further discussion. And you ignored the hands and counted them as votes. They were not votes. Votes are yes or no.
It is votes. The call of the question was before, and we went to the vote for the call of the question. The call of the question was asked before we got to those additional hands. Great. Stephen Alari, you have your hand up. For what purpose do you seek recognition?
I move the orders of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alari. Moving forward, folks. Our Labor Committee, Mark Ramos and Cecile Ben David.
I'm here. It's Cecile Ben David. I'm going to start and then Mark's going to come on. Our Labor Committee is a new committee. So we want everyone to know that we're working very hard. We want you to know that we meet on the third Tuesday of the month. So we'll be meeting next week. Our report is posted on the LACDP website. In our last meeting, when you were voting about endorsements, when we voted about the endorsements. We received a message from one of our sister unions that there was a problem with one of the candidates. Our members worked very hard and we were effective in encouraging a no vote for that candidate. We have decided that we are going to be creating a list of union members who belong to the LACDP. So if any of you are union members, if you would, you can contact Daryl Drexel, or you can contact me or Mark. So we want to know who belongs to a union so we can all be effective. All right, Mark, do you want to take the rest of it?
Yeah, hi, everybody. So we also discussed some legislative issues, bills that we were kind of monitoring. It was kind of late in the session when the committee was developed, but two bills that we did discuss were SB 133. Excuse me, but I don't have I didn't bring those notes with me. But SB 133 was a Durazo bill on a 10% tax credit. We also discussed AB 685 by Eloise Gonzalez Reyes, which is notification for retailers within 24 hours. If someone tests positive for COVID-19, they would have to inform the public and the workers in the store. Representing folks who work in grocery stores and a retail environment, I can tell you that one of the biggest problems that we have right now is a lack of notification from the employers to the employees in the community. We have had several hotspots where the employers have not been reporting what is going on, and we're having to chase these things. Unfortunately, this bill will not go into effect until January 1st, but it does give us something to work with, and we are quite excited about it. And it was a big lift. Should have been an easy one, but we had to fight it all the way through. We talked about COPE endorsements from the LA County Fed. Let's see. We talked about Prop 22. Which is
about Alton Reed 22.
Yep, and Alton Reed talked about Prop 22 and the idea of trying to get folks to vote no on Prop 22. As you know, it is a Uber and Lyft and DoorDash $200 million power grab at the state legislature. I know folks have lots of concerns about Prop 22. Some folks who are independent contractors. Look, folks, as the legislation matures, more jobs or more careers will be carved out. This is more about these drivers who should be employees, they match the ABC test to be an employee. But if anybody is interested in democracy, these companies putting a 7/8 rule attached to this proposition, which means that the only way to change it would be with a 7/8 majority of both houses, which is completely undemocratic. Talk about 2/3 to do anything with money, but 7/8, these guys are literally carving out a special place for themselves, and we need to oppose it vigorously. So please, no on Prop 22, a big deal for all of us in labor. And this would just, if this thing passes, this would just be the beginning of the gig corporation's assault on organized labor and everything else, with whether it's health insurance, workers' compensation, paid sick days, all kinds of different issues with this one. In the report that you'll find online, we included an opinion piece for no on 22 from the LA Times, information from the California Labor Federation, and from the No on 22 website. That's what I got, Cecile.
Okay. And one thing I want to make sure everyone understands, this committee is being revised, and the purpose of our committee is to avoid CDP on labor issues and labor advocacy actions. So we are here, we are working, and we are here for the LACDP. So that's our report for our September meeting. We're meeting next Tuesday for our October meeting. I don't think that takes a vote, does it?
Give me a second, Cecile. Sorry. Okay, great. Thank you, Cecile, Mark. We really appreciate your work on this. And this is also a very new committee that we've reestablished. Okay, Geraldine Stapleton, without objection, move to accept the labor report. Is there a second? Seconded by Dina. Discussion, Mr. Tuttle, for what purpose do you rise in this discussion? Mr. Tuttle, please accept the unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My mistake. I was going to get into the other discussion, but orders of the day were called. I apologize.
No worries, Mr. Tuttle. Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of accepting the Labor Committee report as presented, please click the yes button. All those in objection to receiving and filing the Labor Committee report, please hit the no button. Voting starts now. There we go. All right, without objection, with 120 votes, the Labor Committee's report passes. Thank you so much. Okay. Rules and Legal, second reading, Lawrence Zaxton and Jimmy Woods Gray. Oh boy.
Are we on the Rules Committee report?
Yes. Yes, Ms.
Oh,
Gray.
we are? Okay. You know how it is. I'm always multitasking. Too many good things happening in the world. Do one thing. Sorry.
Good evening, Democrats. I'm going to start for just 1 second and then hand this off to Jimmy. I'm Lawrence Saxon, one of the co-chairs of the Rules and Legal Committee. Before I hand this off to Jimmy, we do often from the Rules and Legal Committee share information that is legal as opposed to purely rules. And one of the things that I did want to share with the body is we heard today that Ms. Barrett, Mr. Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court, refused to answer a question about whether a peaceful transition of power was required by the Constitution. That's extremely disturbing. Another legal development which has happened, which is extremely disturbing, is that the Trump campaign and the RNC have decided to dedicate $20 million to voter suppression litigation and an additional $30 million to hiring folks to what they call monitor the polls or police the polls, but really that's just voter intimidation. It's extremely, extremely frightening. I have put into the chat a way that anyone who is interested in participating in voter protection efforts outside the state of California can do that through the Biden campaign. I know our chair talked about ways to do that here in California, which is very important, but it's also important for us to make sure that that happens in Georgia and Arizona and all of the other states where voter suppression is alive and well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Jimmy Woods Gray.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I would like to move two error amendments to the proposed amendment to Article 7, Section B, 5B, and they are as follows. In Article 7, Section B, 5B, the phrase, a co-chair, the co-chairs of the credentials as applicable shall sue in lieu thereof, should be amended to read, a co-chair, the co-chairs of the Credentials Committee as applicable shall sit in lieu thereof. Thus, we're adding the word the before the word credentials and the word committee after the word credentials and substituting the word sit for the word sue. And in the following sentence, we want to delete the words more than so that the sentence reads, in the event that there is one co-chair of the Credentials Committee which is eligible to serve, the convener shall designate which it shall be. These were typographical errors in this cleanup language. Is there a second?
So under the rules that were adopted, this amendment is in order. Is there a second? Mr. O'Shaughnessy, did you raise your hand to second?
Stephen O'Leary seconded it, but
I think I said Jane, Christina, but so there's a number of seconds.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on these scrivener's errors to the proposed amendment?
okay, sorry, Mr. Zaxton, we're gonna go ahead and clear the deck. Let's clear it first. Okay, and now we're gonna go ahead and take any discussion items. If you please raise your hand.
It's on the motion, right?
So this is on the technical amendments made by Ms. Woods Gray, Ms. Jenkins.
We're unmuting Rosemary Jenkins for her hand was up first.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The word which was used to refer to the vice.
It actually says who.
Oh, thank you. That's what I was going to say. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rosemary. Stephen O'Leary? Can we hear Stephen or no?
I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Ms. Mickelson?
A point of information, I would like to have this repeated, please, because it was very long and confusing.
Yeah,
It's short of
it's on the agenda.
Short of
Isn't
being,
it on the
is it
agenda?
written? Is
Yes,
it written
on the
down?
agenda.
Oh, okay, thank you, because I'm on my phone. Thank you so much.
So I will repeat it. We're adding the word "the" before the word credentials and the word committee after credentials. So it says the credentials committee instead of just credentials. And we are substituting the word "sit" for the word "sue." That's something that was a typographical error in the conversion from the PDF to the Word. We're also eliminating the words "more than" before the word who is eligible to serve, because you couldn't have designating which if it's only one co-chair. So those are all typographical corrections, and I think Ms. Bassett is seeking recognition.
Sure, we'll go to Ms. Bassett.
Well, hi, I think you just answered my question. What was the purpose of these changes? What result do they have?
They're all non-substantive technical amendments that basically came in because when the document was converted from Word to PDF and PDF to Word and back and forth in the course of the process, they are little tiny technical glitches, like the word "sit" became "sue," or the word "the" dropped out.
Okay, I don't see any more hands on that. Lawrence, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Or did you have more on that? I wanted to give.
So those are amendments to Article 2, Section 7, that are purely technical in nature. And the purpose, I believe, of Ms. Woods Gray making that motion is so that the motion before us is the motion for the final language for Articles 2 and 7 regarding anti-harassment, workplace violence, and incivility. So if this motion passes, we can then proceed to an explanation of this rule and then debate.
Okay, great. And for some of the folks who didn't catch it, if it's okay with you, Mr. Zaxton, may I allow Ms. Jimmy Woods Gray to repeat that motion?
Please.
Ms. Gray, if you could repeat the motion.
The motion in Article 7, Section B, the phrase the co-chairs, you want the whole thing? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Please.
Okay. Okay, the co-chairs of credentials as applicable shall sue in lieu thereof. Should be amended to read the co-chairs of the credentials committee as applicable shall sit in lieu thereof. Thus, we are adding the word "the" before the word credentials and the word committee after the word credentials, and substituting the word "sit" for the word "sue." In the next sentence, following sentence, we delete the words more than so that the sentence reads, in the event that there is one co-chair of the credentials committee who is eligible to serve, the convener shall designate which it shall be. And that's the motion.
I'll turn it back to Lawrence.
So at this time, I don't believe there's, unless Mr. Robeson is seeking to speak on this motion, we're prepared to go to a vote. Is that what you're seeking, Mr. Robeson?
Call the question.
Oh, actually, I don't think that's necessary since you were the last speaker, so thank you. So all those in favor, please press the green button. All those opposed, please press the red button, and we will then be able to turn to the actual substance of this.
What happened to my button?
I think you didn't get one because you're a co-chair. You're
Oh, is that
a
what
co-host
happened?
right now.
Oh, okay. Because I'm going, where's my button? Okay. All right. I'm aye. I'm an aye. Aye.
All right, I think we have another 10 seconds to vote. I am showing, okay, I think that looks like we are still getting more votes.
We'll go ahead and close voting.
Okay, we'll close voting. I'm showing 133 yes and 2 no.
Correct.
Now we're prepared to move to the amendment on the substance. Before we do that, Ms. Woodsgray, did you want to acknowledge our committee members?
Yes. Would all of the committee members please raise your hands because you can't stand up. So can you wave at everybody?
Don't take down my hand.
Just give a wave so everybody can see everybody. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, but don't lower my hand.
So the amendment before you with the technical amendments offered by Ms. Woods-Gray has a few parts. This has to do with the basically harassment and workplace, anti-harassment and workplace violence rules. So the existing rules largely exist in this, in our bylaws, only in the fact that the bylaws vest the authority to handle complaints and disciplinary matters in the policy committee. The policy committee then created an ad hoc task force, which in fact tries to supervise the investigation, conciliate matters, and then bring them back to the policy committee either for acceptance of conciliation or for determination. The purpose here is to put into our bylaws that process, to create a process that determines who the members are on a permanent basis as opposed to an ad hoc basis. Excuse me. And to, in addition to that, sort of embody in writing so that everybody knows that our body is in fact committed to enforcing our existing anti-harassment, anti-workplace violence, and code of conduct policies. As a result, in Article 2, Section C4A, an additional ground for termination of membership has been added, which is a member who is found by the policy committee to have knowingly violated any duly promulgated code of conduct, anti-harassment, or workplace violence policy of which he had actual notice. Article 8, Section B is amended to add a new committee, which will supervise the investigation of allegations of any code of conduct, anti-harassment, or workplace violence policy promulgated by this committee or its policy committee. The Harassment and Workplace Violence Committee shall determine when an investigation is complete and attempt to reach a consensual resolution. If it's unsuccessful in reaching that consensual resolution, it refers the record of the investigation and any recommendations to the policy committee for its consideration. Section 5B for this new committee provides that the chair is or the highest ranking officer not involved in the complaint. If the chair is involved in the complaint, will be the convener of the committee. The co-chairs of the Rules and Legal Committee are also on this committee unless they are involved in the complaint, in which case one or both of the co-chairs of the Credentials Committee shall sit in lieu thereof. 2 other members of the Policy Committee shall be on this committee, at least one of whom is not an officer. Those 2 are appointed by the chair and ratified by the Policy Committee at the first Policy Committee meeting after the ratification of this amendment, and thereafter the first Policy Committee meeting after the election of regional vice chairs. If there are vacancies, then they are filled by the convener. The rules of procedure will be promulgated by the Rules and Legal Committee, and the rules of procedure for the Policy Committee will be recommended to the Policy Committee by the Rules and Legal Committee. Nothing in that process eliminates the recall process or the termination of members process that already exists independent of this. The only other thing I would say is that this is sort of the beginning of a process. There is one more amendment, which is in C4, which basically says that the way the rules are set forth in 5B will govern, 5C will govern rather than C4. And this, if it is adopted, will result in there being additional hearings in the Rules Committee on the procedures for the committee and also procedures for the Policy Committee. Because our approach to bylaws is generally speaking that they are a work in progress, it's often the case that as we go through the implementation of additional regulations and procedures, we find small errors or small issues which we bring back, or big issues which we bring back. So I would encourage people to remember that our bylaws process, for example, on endorsements, went through probably 10 or 15 years of amendments to get to where they are today, where I think they are, although complex, something that is pretty facilitative of handling a large number of endorsements. So looking at these as work in progress, I think, is the correct way to do that. These are now before you for discussion. The normal order of discussion is that we would recognize 3 individuals in favor, 3 opposed, 1 minute each, as provided in the motion. So if you would like to be recognized to speak against, please raise your hand just for the purpose of being recognized to speak against. So if we could lower the hands and then just have people raise their hands if they'd like to be recognized to speak against, that would be helpful.
So, Mr. Jackson, in keeping in with what we've been doing in this meeting, we're going to go ahead and clear the deck. Staff's going to clear the deck. Clear the deck. Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, can you please?
So Mr. Robeson wishes to speak against, Mr. Tuttle wishes to speak against, and Ms. Roan wishes to speak against.
Wait a minute.
Okay, and so
I am like, excuse me. I am like,
we will now look for speakers in favor.
Like, bitch.
Hold on, Lawrence. Give me 1 second. I misunderstood. These are the speakers that are in opposition to this, correct?
Correct.
We have Mr. Robeson, Mr. Tuttle, and Ms.
Brown. Yes.
That is not
and then
fair.
On the code of conduct, correct?
This is on the anti-harassment, workplace violence, and incivility process, correct?
I understand that. I just want to thank you. I want to make sure we clear the board in front of me so I have all those names. So we have the 3 speakers in opposition to the code of conduct.
The fuck?
Let's go ahead and clear the deck. And we need 3 speakers in. Lawrence, I'll take this part here.
I need to speak.
Well, these people are going every which way.
In 8043, Karen Wingard in 8041, and Rosa Russell is 8054. Okay, and then Mr. Jackson, we have 3 and 3, and as promised, I was going to go 1 opposed, 1 support. Are you okay with that as well?
That seems fine, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we agreed to 1 minute, correct, sir?
That is the rule that was adopted earlier before the reports were put forward.
Time. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Can we spotlight, excuse me, Mr. Robeson? Okay, your 1 minute, Mr. Robeson, starts now.
Before my minute, I have a point of information. Today was submitted the California Democratic Council proposed template for a membership code of conduct. The problem with the code is that the current policy is
ruled out of order. I'm going to go ahead and rule you out of order.
Wait a minute. I still have my minute, sir.
A lot of information. You're ruled out of order, sir. So are you going to go ahead and stick to your minute in opposition to the code of conduct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Your minute starts now.
All right. I think that the code of conduct is so important that it should not be rammed through tonight. More attention should be paid for review of alternative language. Mr. Jackson reported it out 4 or 5 times. He left off the word incivility, which is a very vague concept legally, and et cetera, needs further review. I request that this be referred back to committee, and that's my opposition. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I just make one clarifying statement in response to what Mr. Robeson said?
Absolutely, sir.
We are not voting on the actual code of conduct. The code of conduct was adopted by the policy committee and has been signed off on by the members of this committee already. This has to do with a process for purposes of dealing with violations of our code of conduct, anti-harassment, or workplace violence policy. So just so it's clear, we're not actually talking about the code of conduct itself. So thank you.
Great. The second, I'm sorry, we're going to go back and forth. My apologies. In order, Shanna Inglesby from 8043, the floor.
Okay, I am actually a member of the Sexual Harassment Task Force, and we have been dealing with sexual harassment claims, and we have, I believe, still have a couple that are in the process. So a lot of the complaints that we were getting involved code of conduct that were not necessarily sexual harassment. And that sexual harassment is not the only thing of concern with this body, with the large number of people we deal with. So this just seems like a natural progression to make this a full-time standing committee rather than an ad hoc. And I don't see any reason why this would make people afraid. There's nothing in this code of conduct. We do have rules for removing a member, but they are very difficult. They are very extensive. They require several different committees and members, including the entire body, to weigh in on before it's approved. And it's
time.
Sorry.
All right, time. Thank you so much. A second speaker in opposition to this specific portion, Mr. Tuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Mr. Tuttle, oh, hold on. Go ahead. My bad.
Are we okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, the co-chairs of the committee. I think this is the most important structural change that's been proposed in half a century. It's extremely important. The article that's relevant is termination of membership. It's under that termination of membership, a member found by the policy committee to have knowingly violated any duly promulgated code of conduct. We then turn, and Mr. Jackson opened the door for this, we then turn to the code of conduct. And I invite you to read respectful, friendly, supportive. Ladies and gentlemen, we're the American Democratic Party. We're not the country club party. Politics is not a prom date. We have major issues passionately raised, people being called to account. And this party, what trumps civility is plain speaking, passionate argument to discuss the great issues of
Time.
in our county.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. The second speaker in support, Karen Wingard, 8041. You have to accept unmuting, sorry.
I think as Zach pointed out earlier in his presentation, the making of rules has been a blast. That light went out. You don't need to see my face. The rules is typically a process where we see what works and we see what works better. And as we see what works better, we make changes, or we propose changes, I should say that. And this isn't carved in stone when we pour a night. It's only something we can work with. And so I urge support for the amendments as proposed, and with interesting that if they can be improved, they will be improved.
Thank you, Karen. Third speaker in opposition, Janine Roan from 8051.
Hi, thank you. I disagree with Karen that this is something that can be, molded later. I mean, this is a bylaws amendment. And these are usually very serious discussions that go on with bylaws amendment. And we've been preoccupied with our endorsement process, 2 meetings for that. The body hasn't really had a chance to weigh in and look at this carefully. And I understand why there's something that you guys want for, and we all want it, for sexual harassment. But the idea that we can terminate somebody based on just a very vague term like incivility, what goes on at the meetings, it's been everyone getting used to virtual meetings. But I personally, when I look at the code of conduct, I worry about this place being respectful and supportive, and that's on all sides. And so we need time to do this the right way. And I don't think we're getting that. And especially with just 3 speakers. I'm sure there's more people that would like to speak.
The final speaker in support of the code of conduct portion, Rosa Russell, 8054. Rosa, are you unmuted? Hold on.
Sorry, I forgot.
Rosa, you're
okay. Thank you. Support for the code of conduct that is in place that will maintain expectations for members and provide a follow-up option for those who are found by the new standing committee to have violated the code. These updates allow the new standing committee to complete and provide proper recommendations for those who violate the code of conduct and the anti-harassment policies. We know that the last few meetings we have had have been crazy, and we want to make sure that our members are protected and our staff are protected. So I am for the standing committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rosa. Lawrence, I'm going to turn it back to you.
So I believe that there was a motion by Mr. Alvarez, so I think we need to, which had to do with extending debate, so I would recognize him at this time.
Okay, you said Alvarez, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Alvarez? Mr. Alvarez, going once?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Yes, I would like to make a motion to extend debate. I think this is a very important issue and people need to express their opinion about the subject. So I would like to make a motion to extend debate.
So Mr. Alvarez, are you moving to add a certain number of speakers?
I would like to add it like 4 and 4. That'd be great.
Okay, so the motion is to add 4 speakers in favor and 4 speakers opposed. I see a second from Mr. Lieberman. Is he an eligible voter, Mr. Chairman?
He is an eligible voter, yes.
I'll do it.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any need for discussion? If not, we can proceed directly to a vote on the motion to extend debate.
Oh, hold on, Mr. Jackson. We're gonna go ahead and clear the deck as we normally do. We're gonna clear the deck.
No, you don't normally do that.
We're clearing the deck. Chris Robeson, Amy Fall, and Stephen Alari. For the third time, we're clearing the deck.
Well, no shit. If somebody else beats me, I'm gonna.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, you can go ahead and conduct the vote, sir.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to extend debate by 3 in favor and 3 opposed. All those in favor, please signify by passing or pressing the green button. Those opposed, please press the red button for no. We'll have 1 minute. Mr. Chairman, can someone from your side time that?
Absolutely. Give me 1 second. Can you put a timer on this for 45 more seconds? Twenty seconds. Two. 1. Okay, that's time, Mr. Jackson, with 87 no and 55. Am I correct to say the motion failed?
Yes, so the motion to extend debate has failed. Shall we proceed to a vote on the motion itself, which is the changes to Article 2 and 7 with the technical amendments offered by Ms. Woods-Gray? Please press the green button if you're voting yes and the red button if you're voting no. This requires a 2/3 vote.
Wait, let's clear the deck. Clear the deck. As usual, let's clear the deck. Okay, Mr. Jackson, please go ahead.
This requires a 2/3 vote. Green is yes, red is no. Please, we'll have 1 minute for casting your ballot. And when there is timing, Mr. Chairman?
All right, yes, there's 50 seconds on the clock. Mm-hmm. 22 seconds. Five seconds. Time. Mr. Jackson with 106 yeses and 47 nos. Give me 1 second. Give us a second to tally the votes to accurate report of 2/3. Right. With 153 votes cast, 2/3 is 101 votes. There were 106 votes in support, 47 in opposition. Therefore, this passes. Correct, Lawrence?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. So thank you. We will be obviously taking up procedural rules shortly, and I am sure that given the discussion that we had today, the policy committee will be revisiting the code of conduct to be sure that now that there are additional consequences, that it is in fact consistent with those new and additional requirements. We have before us next an amendment to Article 9 with respect to meetings, which basically has to do with the ability to have virtual meetings. This largely puts into place the emergency rules that were adopted by the policy committee with respect to allowing virtual meetings. There is one typographical error. So Ms. Woodsgray, are you prepared to make a motion to change the word matter in the last line of Article 9, Section A5 to the word manner, M-A-N-N-E-R? Jimmy, are you there?
Can we spotlight Ms. Woods-Gray?
I can unmute myself. I so moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second to make that typographical correction? Mr. Alari has made the second. Is there need for discussion on this typographical correction, changing the word matter in the last line of Article 9A5 to manner, M-A-N-N-E-R? Mr. Jones, did you seek to be recognized on this typographical correction?
Give me 1 second here, especially for the same 5 people in the chat. We're going to clear the deck, and then we're going to start to take the discussion part. So we'll clear the deck. There we go. Go ahead and ask your question, Lawrence. Those who want.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this typographical correction to change the word matter in the last line of Article 9, Section A5 to manner, M-A-N-N-E-R? It's clearly a typographical error, as the other times that it appears, it says manner.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. You have 3 hands up, starting with Todd Jones.
Mr. Jones, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Hi, thank you for recognizing me. I've had my hand raised since the last vote. I want to call for the votes to be read, since it was a very close vote, and in the chat many people were confused about which way to vote or what the motion was for. I'd like to have all the names tallied for and against, because it's crucially important tally that needs to be made.
Unfortunately, Mr. Jones, you were not.
But I don't think that there's any relief.
So there is someone who's speaking who's not muted, Mr. Chairman. Is it possible for us to mute folks and then unmute them just to keep that from happening? It's very hard to hear what's being said.
Sorry. So, okay, I think we've muted everybody. Mr. Robeson has his hand up.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes, I have a point of order. I would like to have a roll call vote on the last vote. We should have had that a procedural option, particularly in such a close call. And also, apparently, many people who voted by phone, their votes were not counted. So I'm calling for a roll call vote.
So, Mr. Robeson, you could have asked for that earlier, so I'm ruling you out of order.
When?
Am I correct, Mr. Chair, that the next person seeking recognition is Ms. Fall?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fall, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
When did we have a chance to do that? You're not calling on any of us. I've had my hand up and I've been in the chat recording how many times I have asked to make a motion and how many times I have asked for a point of information. You are not giving us the chance to ask these things, to get votes, to have a roll call, or to speak in opposition. So that is the point. Everyone had their hand up. You keep clearing it so that people aren't then being heard, except for in the chat, which is being ignored.
Well, is this a point of information? I don't
It is
understand
a point of information, but it's about the last thing that I couldn't get in on. It's why I'm here tonight. I have a point of information about.
It's the point of information on the motion?
I have a motion to change a word. That's different. I have a motion to change a word. My motion is to change the word from incivility to discrimination, because that's what it says in the state site. The Democratic state site is
discussing the motion on the word manner, like manners. Okay, great. So you're ruled out of order. That's your third time, and so we were no longer calling.
Nope, it is.
Mr. Zaxon, are we entertaining more discussion on the word manners? Nelson, 41.
Mr. Chairman, there are folks who I think maybe you should be calling on folks so that since I'm not sure which people have been determined not to be called on. So
we'll do Mr. Nelson in 8041.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson, 8041.
I appeal the decision of the chair on your ruling of Todd Jones's motion being out of order. All he asked for was a simple, a proper clarification of a very close vote. I think it's worth having that extra effort on something that's important. Thank you.
So we never called for a roll call vote, Mr. Nelson. You do realize that.
Because you wouldn't let anyone.
No, I believe that Jones was asking for that. Could we left it so confusing in the way you managed it. Let's ask Todd Jones to restate what he wanted. I believe that the real issue that we need to get to here is a roll call vote. We need to say how people voted. That's all.
The way people are voting are in the participants page. If you can't follow that, it's right there. Shanna Inglesby, 8043.
I'd like to move, we call the question.
Is there a second? Seconded by Pat Sanders. All those in favor, let's hold on, clear the deck. Okay, all those in favor, please click the yes button. All those in opposition, please click no.
This is a motion to terminate debate on Ms. Woods Gray's amendment to change the word matter to manner. It's not on the actual motion, it's to terminate debate.
Thirty more seconds. Time. Mr. Zaxon with 122 yeses and 10 nos. The change to the word matter to manner passes.
No, Mr. Chairman, actually that was to terminate debate. We're now ready for the motion. So at this time, the motion before you is the non-substantive amendment by Ms. Woods Gray to change the word matter in the last line of Article 9, Section 85 to the word manner. All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes with the green button. All those opposed, no with the red button.
Clear the deck. Okay, go ahead. All those in favor, please state the motion, Mr. Jackson.
It is to change the word matter in Article 9, Section A5, the last line, to the word manner, M-A-N-N-E-R. Is that time, Mr. Chairman?
We have 30 more seconds. That's time, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It looks to me like it's saying 121 yes and 6 no.
Correct.
So that motion passes. We're now on to the amendment itself. I will provide an explanation. Then we will take 3 speakers in favor, 3 opposed. At that point, if there's a motion to extend debate, we'll take that, and then we will go from there. Article 9, Section A5 is amended to provide that if a meeting takes place through the use of conference telephone, electronic video screen, or other electronic transmission, the fact that that will be the way in which the meeting is either entirely or partially taking place will be included in the notice. It will also be included in the notice that is sent out on the website, and also the notice that's sent out for the meeting. In section D1B, we are adding the words newly revised and latest edition of to the reference to Robert's Rules of Order. That is actually what we have understood that to mean, as opposed to some other version. So that's merely a clarification of existing language. In section 3, we are basically saying that the requirement for a printed name on ballots if the meeting is virtual, it only needs to be to the extent consistent with the technology. In section 5, we reiterate that it's the express preference of the committee that all meetings be held in person. We allow for subordinate bodies like the policy committee or other committees to conduct their meetings by conference phone, electronic video screen, electronic transmission. If the presiding officer makes a determination that that's appropriate and the meeting allows for, the meeting is noticed that that is a way to participate, each member is able to participate in that meeting either in person or through one of those means. Each person can communicate with all others concurrently. Each person who's participating as a member is provided a means of participating, and that third parties are able to access this to the extent required by the open meetings rule. We then provide that if this committee, which is the whole body, is going to meet virtually, then that has to require some kind of extraordinary circumstance, which is either an official government order prohibiting or limiting the gathering of persons, or a finding of similarly extraordinary circumstances by the chair with the concurrence of 2/3 of the countywide officers. And then we also provide that there can be procedural requirements for the conduct of the meeting that are consistent with this Article 9, Section 5D, for virtual meetings that are consistent with those for regular meetings. So that is the amendment. At this time, we will recognize 3 speakers in favor and 3 opposed. Mr. Chairman, did you want to do that since you probably can see these better than I?
Melissa, I'm going to make a quick note. Motion is dilatory if it seeks to obstruct or thwart the will of the assembly as clearly indicated by the existing parliamentary constitution. Any main or other motion that is frivolous or absurd or that contains no rational proposition is dilatory and cannot be introduced. It is the duty of the presiding officer to prevent members from misusing legitimate forms of motions merely to obstruct business. Whenever the chair becomes convinced that one or more of the members are repeatedly using parliamentary forms of dilatory purposes, he or she should either not recognize those members or should that rule motions are out of order. Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition, section 39.1, 39 through 39.4, pages 325 to 326. Roberts is now citing to the paragraph number, not the line numbers in this section. And we do have one member who is already been ruled out of order 3 times. So, with that information, Mr. Zaxton, what was your question, sir?
So we're now ready to take 3 speakers in opposition and 3 in favor. The chair ruled that we would do that.
Go ahead and clear
alternate order, but we normally take the names first. So we're seeking people who are wishing to speak in opposition at this time.
Okay, so let's go ahead and, okay, there we go. We have 1, Jason Small. Is there a second speaker in opposition? Is there a second speaker in opposition? Do you guys see a second one? Is there a second speaker in opposition? Going once. Okay, we have Chris Robeson and third speaker, Rebecca Wolfersberger. Chris Robeson, Rebecca, great. Now, clear the deck.
We're now looking for speakers in favor.
We have Paul Seo, Michelle Henderson, and Sergio Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First speaker would be Mr. Robeson in opposition.
Mr. Jason Small.
Oh, Small?
Give me 1 second. We're going to give 1 minute, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
You have a timer? Yeah. Give me 1 second to get the timer. Can we unmute Mr. Small? Ready? Mr. Small, the floor is yours, sir. Mr. Jason Small, are you there? Is he unmuted? Mr. Small, you have to accept unmute.
There, now you can hear me? Yeah, I was unable to unmute. I apologize.
If you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to strike the following language from section D, paragraph 1A. Any special rules of order adopted by this committee for specific meeting, provided that such special rules of order were first adopted by the policy committee and included in the meeting notice, and continuing to strike in section 1B, the following: to the extent consistent with such special rules of order. I'd like to strike all of that language.
Mr. Small, that motion is out of order. The first motion on the floor is to adopt the committee report as presented. Only if that is rejected would amendments of that nature be in order. That is not non-substantive.
Thank you, Mr. Zaxton. We'll go, as we said, we're going to alternate. We'll take.
So I believe still, even though his motion was out of order, he still has his 1 minute, Mr. Chair.
How many seconds were left on the clock? 30. Oh, 28 seconds.
Okay. So, yeah, the reason that I would move to strike that language is because these bylaws would charter the policy committee to write policies that are, this egregiously expands the power of the policy committee and would affect membership bodies subordinate to the committee, contradict what the parliamentary authority states with regards to rules governing assembly, and greatly thwarts members' rights.
Thank you so much, Mr. Small. Our first speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is because some rule of flexibility and adaptive business credentialing. It opened up the window 645. So based on what we're already doing, we're just codifying her business in orderly fashion, but in my time to the next speaker.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Sayo. There were 22 Robeson.
I'll go back to something, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nelson put out there predictors. I don't know, you better check with Gary Shea, but you can't vote on the ruling of the chair.
So, Mr. Zaxton, should we rule him out of order? He's not speaking to the motion.
I did speak to the motion. I said ditto, Mr. Small.
Well, it is out of order, both speak to a motion and make another motion in the same recognition. So I believe, Mr. Chairman, that Mr. Robeson was
out of order, but he
that
does have 1 more seconds left. He has 29 more seconds left. Wait, Mr. Robeson, you're on mute.
I think that Mr. Small summarized the issues, and I don't want to reiterate them. I just want to say I support those issues. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. The second speaker in support of the virtual portion of the rules report, Nichelle Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When my co-chair stated, for the past few months, we've been using these rules. To present to 300 people in a few hours is very challenging. In ACES, with the rules, I understand for some that it seems to be an inconvenience for them, but it works for those of us that are doing the work in this spot.
Mr. Chair, Michelle's going.
Everyone to have to an early and credential way than face to face. So I am in full support of continuing to follow the rules as they are.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. You had 40 seconds left on the clock. Do you wish to yield your time to the next speaker? Ms. Henderson?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll hold on to that. The third, Rebecca Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for calling on me. I am, Mr. Tuttle had said, this is an important bylaw or whatever we're working on here. I don't believe to the point of throwing them out of their membership is being a thousands of meetings.
Well, then we have
That was weird.
afternoon. Good evening, Democrats. We is basically codifying what we already have done. When the emergency procedures of COVID happened back in March, gave or recommendations. We are now codifying those temporary recommendations. That's all we're doing. Codifying the temporary recommendations.
no idea what's going on. Can I hear it?
It 15 seconds.
I would like to encourage different things. So one of the things that came up in the course of the discussion was the code of conduct that affect.
Are you using the website? I mean, the internet? Yeah, are you on the internet, like TV or anything? I keep getting kicked off. And I have high internet, so I don't know what the hell the problem is. Yeah, this is like, I don't understand. They upgraded my internet, and then all of a sudden now I'm like, oh, that should happen. The same thing happened to us. We upgraded it. We paid for the bigger package. Yeah.
And I was getting less than 1 megabyte per upload.
Yeah.
You can run an internet test right now.
How do you do that? Because this.
Open Google.
Okay.
And type in internet speed test.
On the caps. Internet speed test.
I tell them I had to get off FaceTime because it wasn't working. And then of course my service isn't working.
Yeah, I can't even get it to pull up.
Oh geez.
Well, I can't do it on here because then I can't pull it up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just ridiculous. Now I gotta
work on your phone too, the internet speed test.
Oh, will it? Oh, okay.
Because it's testing your Wi-Fi, no
Okay.
Or rules amendments should be in bylaws form and submitted to the Rules Committee through the Rules Committee staff member, Drexel Hurd. Suggestions will be placed on the agenda by the co-chairs and subject to a public hearing before considerations are adopted. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
With that, Mr. Chair, we'll turn this back over to you. Thank you very much.
To clarify, Mr. Zaxton, when you said the remaining two items, you didn't mean the rules and legal, you meant reports, correct?
Well, the amendment suggestions that this how to do that, and then how that process
Okay, just
works.
want to make sure that nobody was confused that we were voting on two more items.
That was my
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much to the Rules and Legals Committee for your work on this.
Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry, can you hear me? Commission, may I ask it?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question. On a motion to reconsider, if that is to say, if I'm thinking of each of these, I think I lost report. If a member who voted do it tonight, or is it the ruling of it in the immediate following, right? My second question, excuse me, it's a two-part.
On to the first question.
Briar, is 18.2 download good? Your internet connection is fast. Your internet connection should be able to handle multiple devices streaming. So that's why
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. I'm going to allow Gary Shea to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gary, are you there?
I don't know. I'm going to ask right now.
I'm here. Okay. The question was about a motion to reconsider. It has to be made by a person made at this meeting and the succeeding meeting. You're dealing with bylaws issues, so if the motion succeeds, then we notice that you're voting on the.
Thank you. Thank you. My second question.
Tonight, so I don't have to worry. All right.
Two of them, right?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Chair's indulgence. The second question is,
and you are.
and
You
I
will text me if you don't come back.
would love to have in any future battle. I want to make a good parliament efforts here. He had a motion which is very interesting. Do I understand correctly that if the motion were to be reconsidered, i.e., to defeat these proposed changes, that according to Mr. Ramos's motion, it would still be alive for future work. It would simply go back to the status it was in, and it would still be alive. In other words, it wouldn't disappear. But as I understood it, and if someone wants to read it back, that's fine. But am I correct in that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Shea.
Nice car, the nice house. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna correct, where am I? Okay, there I am. I'm gonna correct one thing. Actually, Roberts, for some reason, says that a motion to reconsider doesn't have to be seconded, which I'm kind of surprised about. So anyway,
Thank you,
so
sir.
what was the other question?
Yeah, so I'm sorry to do this, and I was looking for it earlier, and when orders of the day were called, I would have asked this at the beginning of the whole process, but that's all fine. And the chair's been very generous with me tonight, and I appreciate it, very much so. On this matter, if the motion does get called up, I don't know if it will or not, and people are voting on it, when they vote, I'm thinking of what Mark Ramos stipulated, we all approved, or the group approved it. As I understand it, if the motion is defeated, it is, as I understand it, it would still be alive so people could work on it. Am I correct? It'd probably take a
I'm not really understanding your question, but let me just say a couple of things that may help.
Thank you.
When you do the motion to reconsider, what you put, if it passes, you are then in the position of where you were before the vote was taken.
Right. That's fine. And then I think, then let me do this because it's 9:45 or something. And being of Mr. Ramos, a very skillful motion is worthwhile. And I think there's room there, but I'm going to yield my time back to the chair with my thanks to the chair.
Thank you, Mel. Okay, moving. Organization Development Charting Committee. Marshall, Jane Wishon, Patrice Marshall, McKenzie.
Good evening, Democrats. The organizational chart is the report that follows. We have two clubs. One was renewed as a full charter that was provisional. That's the Hewitt Humphrey Democratic Club. And we have offered a provisional charter to the San Fernando Valley Democratic Club. At this time, the committee is still working to identify ways to accept electronic signatures for the many renewals going to come up in 2021. So stay tuned for more details on that. The committee does meet on the fourth Thursday of the month. However, the committee will not meet in the month of October. We are going to use that time to canvass other voters to get out the vote for the November election. With that, committee submits its report for the month of October. Thank you.
There's a motion.
Is there a motion to approve the report?
It was moved by Mr.
Alceo.
Any discussion?
And a second? Yep. Is there a discussion? Seeing none, can we take a vote?
We're almost done.
Please indicate with your green arrow if you approve the report, and the red X if you don't. I can't see the count, so you'll have to handle that, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
We'll give 30 more seconds. With the simple majority, the chair calls it 104-0. Thank you so much. This report is
Thank you.
Without objection, received and filed. Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Patrice. Resolutions Committee, Tony Hale, Mary Rose.
Thank you. And it received enough signatures to be considered tonight. So I will read the resolve for you. This is there should be information available to you about this. This calls for placing sanctions on Turkey and Azerbaijan and to stop war crimes. The reads, therefore be it resolved that the Los Angeles County Democratic Party condemns Turkey and Azerbaijan for the commission of war crimes in their attacks on Artsakh and Armenia, urges for the immediate cessation of hostilities without preconditions, urges President Erdogan to cease providing military assistance to Azerbaijan, asks Congress and President Trump to place sanctions on and stop providing military assistance to Turkey and Azerbaijan, and calls for accountability for the instigation of the current and any potential conflicts. And be it further result, the author shall deliver this resolution to the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Speaker of the Minority Leader of the United States House of Representatives, Majority Leader and Minority Leader, in the NATI resolution. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
There's a motion from Susan Shu. It's seconded by Shannon Inglesby.
Okay. Okay, is there, we could clear the deck. Is there any discussion?
Ellen Strahan did ask to speak, so I have one. I have Daniel Tam as number 2. Mr. O'Shaughnessy. Now, can we
Ellen Strahan?
Yes, yeah, well,
Yes, yes.
we can hear you.
Fellow Democrats, I rise to ask this body for your support for this resolution condemning war crimes currently being committed by Turkey and Azerbaijan against Armenian civilians in Armenia and Artsakh. It is our duty as an organization to show solidarity at the moment of pain. It is also our goal as an organization to uphold. As with me here tonight, my nephew David is on the front lines defending his freedom and his right to exist and one of their survival. Many have already lost loved ones, but this isn't just a humanitarian crisis that demands bold leadership and I'm not all for that are being committed to homeland is threatened. Bring
Yes, Daniel, can you hear me? I rise
Yes.
in support. My name is Daniel Tam. I'm of Assembly District 46. I rise in support of this resolution. This is a body that must stand against oppression, fearlessly stand against oppression and aggression. And in the spirit of that, we are looking at something that is straight up aggression. And in the spirit of that, I rise in support of this. And I ask the body to unanimously approve this resolution. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Paul O'Shaughnessy, you were the
Hold
third
on one
person.
second. Give me a second. We're technology issues here. Mr. Hale, Shannon, there's 20 seconds left on Mr. Daniel Tam's time, which he has remaining. And then Mr. Tam, do you want to give your time to who?
I would yield my time to support of
Okay,
it.
so I'm going to give that to Shannon, 8043.
I'd like to yield my time to Ellen Strahan.
Okay, so that's 1 minute and 20 seconds. Ellen, you have 1 minute and 20 seconds. Give us 1 second. Okay. You're muted. You have a minute.
Did it get hot in here on the phone?
Are we good? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm asking you to join me in an act of solidarity for supporting this resolution. As war crimes are being committed and the right of Armenians to exist peacefully in their ancestral homeland is threatened, we are on the brink of a second genocide against the Armenian people, and our tax dollars are being used to commit these war crimes. If we don't take a stance now and sanction Turkey and Azerbaijan, then nothing sets us apart from the international community in 1950. Who stood by and watched the Armenian genocide unfold.
At this point, I would like to see if there's anyone who'd like to speak against this resolution. If you'd clear the deck, is there anyone wishing to speak against this resolution?
See anybody.
Okay, seeing none.
I've seen none. Let's go ahead and acknowledge.
Okay, seeing none, I would accept which I think we already have now. So we can all in favor of this resolution, please press the yes button. All those opposed, please press no. And I believe there's a timer on the vote. Do we have the time yet? Is some time?
We have about 15 seconds left. Sorry. That's time, Mr. Hill.
Okay, so seeing it looks to be unanimous. We don't get, and that concludes our report.
For their was that the
Right. Thank you.
the only resolution, Mr. Hale?
That's all we have. That's all we have.
Rose, do you wish
Thank
to be recognized?
No, just that, November 14th is resolution. We'll be meeting at E-Board. That's all.
Thank you, Mary Rose, and thank you, Tony, for your reports. Moving on to Ledge Action Committee, Jawan, excuse me.
Bye.
Yay, finally, the best report of the night. Okay. So we actually met on October 8th, which was last week, and they sent out in the packet on Monday 5 bills for you guys to consider. So we're going to go over those 5 bills now. So the first bill on the report is from the LA City Council. It's Council File 20-0792, the Office of Violence Prevention. And this is a motion that's before the City Council to have a report written on the feasibility of creating an Office of Violence Prevention. Right now, communities are sort of reimagining what public safety looks like, and they're also looking at it through the lens of public health. So creating alternatives to police having to respond to every emergency call, such as having social workers, mental health professionals, or civilian staff. This is to basically help the city solicit feedback from the community to see how an office such as this would work and help see if it's possible. So the committee is recommending a support for Council File 20-07 HR4 S561, which is the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act of 2020. This is the bill that's been passed by the House that's sitting in the Senate, and it restores the 1965 Voting Rights Act to its full strength and improves upon it. Obviously, we see the shenanigans being played in Texas, one polling place per county. In South Carolina, 11 hours to vote. This bill puts Section 5, which requires preclearance, back in after the terrible 2013 Shelby versus Holder decision. So our committee is recommending 5-5-0. The next bill on the back side of the report is HR 920 Heroes Act. It's basically the CARES Act extension. We've had the CARES Act extension sitting in the Senate since March, and that was HR 6800. And the House passed a second companion bill, HR 925, on October 1st because the Senate hasn't been doing anything. So, the Senate can come back and vote for the Supreme Court person, but they can't do something to help the American people. It's shameful. So we are recommending support for the HEROES Act, HR 925 and 6800. The next bill is HR 8363 by Adam Schiff. It says the Protecting Out Democracy Act, but it should say Protecting Our Democracy Act, so I will typo on there. This is to protect future presidential abuse, checks and balances, and to strengthen accountability and transparency. So for protecting elections, obviously, obviously Trump has shown abilities, and this set of recommendations that Speaker write this. And 45 by Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, and it's a resolution condemning the genocide of the Bosniak community in 1995. This past summer was the 25th anniversary of the genocide that took place in Srebrenica. In 1992, following Bosnia and Herzegovina's declaration of independence from Yugoslavia, Bosnian Serb forces, known as the Army of Republika Srpska, I'm sure I destroyed that, attacked eastern Bosnia in order to unify and secure Serb territory. And during the struggle for control, the Bosnian Serb forces committed crimes of ethnic cleansing and systematic murder of the non-Serbian population. So at that time, over 8,000 Bosnian men and boys were systemically executed in July of 95. And this resolution is to honor those who lost their lives, and we are asking for support. So normally what we do is we take questions on our bills. I don't know if there's any questions. I don't see any hands being raised up. So if there are any questions, fine. If not, I would ask for the committee to accept our consent calendar and to adopt the report.
There's a motion, Dina, to accept the committee's report. It's seconded by Isaac Lieberman.
Okay. So all of those in favor of accepting the committee's report, please hit the green button by saying yes. All right. I guess Mark is going to put a time on it.
1 minute.
Sure. How embarrassing. He's snoring. You all can hear that, right? So embarrassed. Oh. Thank you, Sarah.
30 seconds on the clock.
You all get to listen to him snore for a minute. Welcome to sleeping in my bed. Oh, I'm so going to tell him about this tomorrow.
Never mind.
It's Benton.
All right, time, Dina, with 121 yeses and 1 in objection.
Okay, and I want you all to meet our new co-chair, Jawan Hilton. He has joined us, and Jawan's gonna give you a few announcements about our committee.
Oh, thanks so much. You know me now. I know your husband, you're laughing at your husband, but it's all good. We all wish we were snoring right about now. So our next meeting will be Thursday, November 5th. It's already on the LACDP website on the calendar, and you're always more than welcome to join us. Also, we'll be dark in the month of December, so we won't have a meeting. And lastly, the Lead Action Committee will be doing our annual training for our January meeting. It will be sometime during the first week of January. So we invite all of you and members of your Democratic clubs to come join us. Thanks so much, and thank you for your time. Chair, I see a lot of people over the point of order. I want to make order. So I don't know, but we want to keep
You're certainly
moving.
not
That's
all
our
of your
report tonight.
comments, and there are two people that were asking for a point of information that have been ruled out of order 3 times, so they're in the phone.
Okay, thanks so much. So we're done. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Item number 11. Linda Bassett, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
So I wanted to clarify what you just said. Did you say that some people had been ruled out of order and so you weren't going to take their hands? Is that correct?
So when I read the dilatory rules, as I do every single meeting, there were 2 people that had been ruled out of order 3 times.
All right, so where do I find those in the bylaws, sir?
That's called Robert's Rules of Order, as I stated that earlier.
But they're not in our bylaws,
They're in
correct?
Robert's Rules of Order. I've said that now 3
Shouldn't
times.
they be in our bylaws?
Robert's
Rules of Order is in our bylaws. They're incorporated.
Okay, I would challenge the chair.
You're ruled out of order twice, so that's 2 for you. Moving forward. We're going to move on to the Joint Assembly District Endorsement Reports, Assembly District 49 and Assembly District 57. 8057 Chair is Jaime Lopez, but I believe the report is going to be given by Alton Wang, who is the secretary, correct?
This is highly undemocratic. I see that I could unmute myself, but I.
Yeah, now I am more.
Great, thank you so much. As I was saying, we're moving on to Alton Wang, who's the vice chair of Assembly District 9. I apologize, Alton.
Great, thanks everybody. Good evening. On September 19th, the Assembly District's 49th and 57th delegations met to consider the endorsement recommendation for the South Almonte City Council. And in this seeking re-election, there are 4 total candidates, the 3 registered Democrats in the race, of which 1 candidate sought endorsed consideration from CDP. So we only interviewed to consider that 1 candidate, Hector Delgado. A total of 15 LACDP members voted in this race. The threshold to reach 60% for endorsement recommended was 9 votes. The votes were 6 yes and no votes. And so therefore we recommend the no endorsement in this race for South Almonte City Council. Is there a motion to accept our report? I mean, our recommendation? Motion from Jaime. Is there a second? There's a second. Is there any discussion on this?
Oh, hold on. There's a motion by Jaime Lopez, and it was seconded by, I think, Karen Suarez, correct? Great. Okay. Yes. So now we need to go into a discussion. There are 2 hands raised for discussion. Oh, I see you. The first hand is ruled. I'm not going to call on that person or recognize that person.
Thank you for saying that.
Stephen O'Leary.
Thanks.
The motion, if I didn't get the 60%, not no endorsement.
Gary.
I'm sorry, say that again. What's the question?
Shouldn't the motion be no consent, no endorsement?
No consensus would mean that we had not come to a conclusion, and no endorsement generally means that nobody is qualified.
I was the attendees.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, may I be
We'll
recognized?
vote, but we no consensus, we still have to vote on the item. Correct, Lawrence?
If there is no consensus, we go to a single ballot where we have the options of the different candidates and no endorsement.
And Alton can't unmute himself.
The alternative is if the committee by a 60% vote had recommended no endorsement, that would be something that you would have to vote up or down. But if the committee did not reach a consensus, we go to a single ballot with the choices of the candidates who were eligible and the option of no endorsement.
So how many, Alton, how many candidates are?
There was one candidate, and so, sorry, I couldn't clarify. We did clarify all the members after the fact, but we had 9 no votes that reached the 60% threshold for no endorsement.
My understanding was that because of who was eligible in this race and what was being considered, that we were proceeding to a position of no consensus. At least that was my understanding on this.
So let me clarify something. Alton, was the intent of the committee to be no endorsement, or was the intent of the committee no endorsement?
No consensus.
No endorsement.
So the recommendation from the committee was no endorsement.
And that's what.
Yes.
That requires a 60% up.
Correct. Nation 80s 49 and 57 of no. And do we take a vote, Lawrence, or Gary, or do we need to go into discussion?
I believe our bylaws require 3 pro and 3 con endorsements. Isn't that correct, Lawrence?
That's correct.
Or we need to take 3 speakers in favor of the committee's recommendation and 3 speakers in opposition to the committee's recommendation. So let's go ahead and clear the hands.
That's up to.
And so we'll pick the first 3 speakers in support of the committee's recommendation of
I've
no
only
endorsement.
been undone. I've only been ruled out of order twice. Not 3 times. Twice. I only spoke twice.
Simon is the first speaker, and you spoke 3 times. You rolled
Twice.
out of order.
Only twice. I only spoke twice. I spoke twice.
You ruled out of order for the 4th time. Okay,
Right.
so can you mute? Okay, so we have Lisa's. In opposition to the committee's recommendation. Is there a second? Opposition? Okay, is there any speakers in support of the committee's recommendation of no endorsement? I don't see any. Alton, are you speaking in favor of the committee's recommendation?
Yeah, if no one else is.
No worries. Okay. So we only have 2 speakers, 1 in opposition and 1 in support. So we'll go ahead and give 1 minute on the timer to Lisa Simon to speak in opposition to the committee's recommendation.
I wasn't
no endorsement.
volunteering to speak. I just have a question. Point of order. I thought that that was my only question, because if it's no consensus, then shouldn't someone have a motion to do something? And I'm sorry for asking for clarification.
No worries. We went back to the chair who said not no consensus. So we're taking into a support and opposition discussion on the committee's recommendation of no. So is there the speaker? There was no other speakers in opposition. Alton Wang, you have 1 minute in support of the committee's recommendation of no endorsement. Excuse me.
I don't have much hope. You guys can, our committee deliberated over, and that's all. Thank you.
Okay, question from Karen Suarez. Is there a second? Okay. Mark Ramos seconded it. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the committee's recommendation of no endorsement, excuse me, please click no.
What? What? Ooh. What?
Time. Thank you so much. With 111 yeses and 2 in opposition, the committee's recommendation for no endorsement passes. So therefore, there is no endorsement in the joint 8049 and 8057 race. Alton, can you clarify what election that was for? Hold on, we're gonna
There we go. Sorry. South of Monte City Council.
Gotcha. And do you want any final words, sir?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wang, for your leadership in putting this together. Okay, now into endorsement from earlier. Go ahead and read it again. Reconsideration of endorsement for Santa Fe Springs Council. On tonight, reconsideration of Santa Fe Springs. Since out-of-door staff was flagged and provided information thanks to 8057 Chair Jaime Lopez about Mr. Zamora's censure by the Santa Fe City Council, City Springs Council. We have since had a conversation and in an effort in 20 days by outside actors, Mr. Zamora agreed to have the body rescind his endorsement pending a vote. Staff will remove Mr. Zamora from our website, our digital voter guide, and we'll be promoting him as a candidate going forward. And thank you, Mr. Lopez and staff involved for making sure that we are kept abreast of these things happening throughout the county. Mr. Alari made the motion to vacate the endorsement. It was second on Suarez. Karen Wingard, your hand is up. Karen, are you muted? Oh, okay. Thank you, Karen. See no further discussion. All those in favor of reconsideration of endorsement for Santa Fe Springs City Council candidate Jose Angel Zamora. We're clearing it. Hold on. Now, there we go. All those in favor of rescinding, please in opposition, please click now. seconds. Thirty more seconds. And that is time with 109 yeses and 1 in opposition. The reconsideration of endorsement for Santa Fe Springs City Council candidate Jose Angel Zamora passes. Thank you so much to everybody. Clear the deck on the hands. Any new business?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so we've reconsidered that endorsement since the only eligible candidate is not seeking our endorsement at this time. It would seem to me that would be in order for us to adopt by unanimous consent a no endorsement in that way.
Without objection. All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please click yes. All those in opposition, please hit no.
So, Mr. Chairman, just so it's clear for folks who are voting, we only have one option at this point since the only candidate who is eligible has withdrawn his name, and that is for no endorsement. So that's
Well,
what
that's time. With 92 yeses and 2 in opposition, the motion for no endorsement in the Santa Fe Springs City Council for no endorsement passes. Point of clarification was in the race for Santa Fe Springs City Council, we were not nulling the rest of the races. We were just rescinding the endorsement of the one of the endorsed candidates for Santa Fe Springs City Council. Okay, great. So now moving forward to new business, Mr. Duvali, for what purpose?
It was actually for the previous non-endorsement. I had clicked the hand up, and I was just curious to why is it that he, even though it was explained by this body, why did he, as a candidate, state that he did not want our endorsement?
So I'm going to go ahead and read this. Of Sam's Council. Last month, we endorsed Jose Angel Zamora. Since that endorsement, staff was flagged and provided information, thanks to 8057 Chair Jaime Lopez, about Mr. Zamora's censure by the Santa Fe City Springs Council and the accusations of harassment against. We have sent actors. Mr. Zamora has agreed to have the body rescind his endorsement pending a vote, which took great. Okay. Seeing no new business. Well, Mr. Duvall, what purpose do you rise? I just answered the question.
So he admitted to it?
Was done. For you to understand it and give a minute to Mr. Duvall.
You know, Mr. Chair, you know, again, yeah, you explained it well.
No new business. Moving forward to general announcements.
I do. I'm sorry for posting so many times. California Democratic Party is recruiting people for our voter protection team. We have both our voting volunteer attorneys. So tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Voter Protection 101 offered Director Kobe King. This is the training that we were pleased to take to be a part of our voter protection team, and to really come at us this cycle. You know, Lawrence was talking about it. The state party has been planning for the last couple of months and is preparing for these 3 weeks.
Yep. A second announcement, Joyce Room. You're unmuted, Joyce. Click accept.
Mark, is this where I make announcement for in memory to acknowledge that we adjourned tonight in memory of? Is this a point where I can do
Give
that?
us the name. I believe we might already have Ms. Sherman.
I sent 2 names in, Dolores Press and Lane Sherman, Congressman Brad Sherman's
Dolores
mother.
Press, I don't have that one.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. What is it, Dolores?
Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you, Joyce. Alton Reed.
It was asked and answered. Thank you very much about Lane Sherman and Memorial. Jay, for just
It is intended to start dismantling racism in the county of Los Angeles. Percent of it to be allocated, begin to beat back the codified racism in LA County rulings, a restorative justice through, anyway, you know what Measure J is. If you want to help out and reach out to voters about this, feel
Exactly, that one. None of them are sad. Okay, what was that? I'm still in because I keep going out. It's now showing
anybody. It is now in your hands. So you don't come back a couple of months from now and say you had no idea. This is your moment. You're members of the Central Committee. You're members of this governing body. This is your moment.
Thank you, Sergio. Rosa Russell.
Did I unmute myself? Thank you. I'd like to make an announcement that the New Frontier Democratic Club is having their Get Out the Vote. We're going to have, they're going to be speaking on the propositions, and they're going to have candidates, having candidates speaking this coming Saturday with Zoom meeting from 10 to 1. I'll put my email in the chat, and I'll send you the flyer. If anyone is interested, just let me know, and I'll send you the flyer.
Stacy Ford.
Thanks, Mark. I just wanted to say thank you to the body for all of your kind words and all of the kind messages that I got. She's fine now. She is back on campus. But I just wanted to give a big hug and a thank you to everyone that reached out and cared about her and me and her well-being. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, and I'm glad she's doing well. Rick Tuttle.
Thank, we may vote on the Supreme Court appointment because he would take office right away. I think it's terrific. I want to bring our attention to Montana, because if it goes to the House, if the election is disputed and goes to the House under the Constitution, each state, as you know, each state delegation gets one vote. So the Williams, who's a strong candidate for the House. And there's some of us, I'm one of them now, may not get close to the House. At the moment, the Republicans control the House, 26 to 24. We need per day. There's also the Paul Ryan seat of Wisconsin. We could deadlock Wisconsin. It's important. The important thing isn't that I'm saying it. The Speaker, Ms. Pelosi, is now focused on it as of the 29th. So, and those of us who are interested in campaign individuals, take a look at this Ms. Williams race, and we add to the time we're using to get involved there. I also recommend to the leadership and perhaps to the state leadership, Mr. Hicks, that we take a look at that kind of thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate you. Patty Skinner.
I want to thank the party for alerting us to the excise contamination bankruptcy hearing. I got in on the call this afternoon. I got off of it to join this meeting, but it was compelling and heartbreaking to hear the testimony, and I'm anxious to see what the result of the public comments are. Thank you for the
Thank you, Pat, and I personally support and I appreciate you doing that. It was a huge issue in Northeast Los Angeles, East Side community, so thank you for that. Janet Foster.
Hi, everyone. I just meeting, and also while we're talking about flipping the Senate, and if anyone has any relatives in Mississippi, the Old South is dying. Former Congressman Mike Espy is in striking distance of taking out his Republican challengers, Cindy Hyde-Smith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Foster.
Hey, folks, I hope everybody's healthy and being safe. And I just want to announce that the Heward H. Humphrey newly chartered Democratic Club with the LACDP, we're having on November 16th a tsunami victory party from when we take the Senate and when we take the presidency away from that repulsive human being. If you want to join in on our virtual bingo, the email to send it to is hhhdemocrats@gmail.com. That's hhhdemocrats.com. That's $10 a card, and there will be prizes. And it's going to be a wonderful party relative to, we're going to instruct how to make a really delicious margarita and have fun virtually and celebrate our wins come after November. Hope you all are well. Take care.
Chris, please put that in the chat. Thank you. Finally, on my end, don't forget 2020 Franklin Delano Roosevelt Democrat of the Year Awards, Sunday, November 15th, 7 p.m. www.lacdp.org/Roosevelt 2020. I know we all wish we could be together to celebrate, but unfortunately, we are going to work it out as a team and as a family. Our adjourned in memories, folks: Dolores Press, Merrill Davis, Lane Sherman, Linda Baker, Wilma Wilson from 8064, victims of coronavirus, police brutality, Black trans lives across Los Angeles. Am I missing anybody else? We did RBG last month. We can more than welcome to do it again. Oh, I hit a button. Hold on. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Shannon, second. Bobby has her hand up. And all those in favor of adjourning, please click yes. All those opposed, please click no. Okay, motion to adjourn carries. Thank you so much, folks. Hopefully when we get together in November, we have won the White House. Have a good night, everybody.